Alright, today live review of the Jameson single pot still 5 oak cask release. This is in particular, the 2023 batch, so it's one of the earlier batches. Of course, this is a Pinot Ricard product from the Middleton Distillery. Single pot still Irish whiskey, 46% ABV or 92 proof. It is chill filtered and color added as far as I can tell. Now this is a mix of 5 barrels. There is ex-bourbon, ex-sherry, new American oak, so that's your bourbon barrel. Barrel that a bourbon would use, I suppose, to be clear. New European oak, so that's an unused European oak. So think like not ex-sherry, but the kind of wood that would be used in an ex-sherry. And new Irish oak, so there's some Irish oak in this, some amount. Now Irish oak, as far as I understand, is not actually very suitable for barrels. It's fairly rare, so I don't think very much of this is virgin Irish oak, but some amount of it is for sure, some percentage. This was not originally, this was originally, I think, an Irish exclusive, an Ireland exclusive. You had to go to Ireland to get this. But now it's kind of fairly widely available as far as I know. I think it's part of the core range now. So probably you'll be able to pick this up around your neck of the wood these days. Now, as far as Irish oak goes, Irish oak tends to be sweeter and more honeyed than an American oak. So like less accent, I suppose, on the spiciness and the oakiness, and more on the like sweet aspects. So like that brown sugar caramel thing, more on that, more on the honey than an American barrel. But of course, we'll rate this out of 100. 25 for aroma, 25 for palate, 25 for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal subjective opinion. Of course, this is triple distilled. I think I didn't mention that. It's also not mentioned here, so let me write that in. Triple distilled, as is pretty much anything from Middleton. All right, what do we got going on here? Appears very barrel forward. Definitely get like that kind of wood related sweetness, kind of like you would get from a bourbon. There's a little bit of that like single pot still, slightly bready, sweet bready, what we typically call a shortbread cookie kind of note in there. Definitely like malt related notes. But also a good amount of like that new charred oak kind of barrel related note. So like a slight spiciness, a good amount of like barrel related sweetness. And a little bit of wood, not a whole lot. There's also maybe just like a touch of orchard fruit there too. Maybe like a touch of apple. But mostly like soft and spicy. Like almost like a big good that includes some amount of fruit, like I don't know, like I wouldn't go with like banana bread, but if you would like bake something with like apple, but not like apple pie, like an apple muffin or something like that. With kind of like that spice and sweet characteristic. Not bad. A little bit tame on the aromas. They're not as intense as I would prefer, but... Alright, Jameson, single pot still, 5 oak on the palate. Slancha. The virgin oak maturation is pretty clear. You get a lot of those like new charred oak notes, like bourbon-esque kind of notes. That kind of like woodiness, that spiciness, and slight sweetness related to a new charred oak barrel. That being said, the no one here on YouTube, yeah. The palate is like fairly similar to the nose in the way that's like, you know, there's a slight kind of sweet, baked good kind of flavor with a little bit of like mixed in apple and spices. Again, if you want to call it like a spiced apple muffin or something like that, you'd be in the realm that I'm experiencing. A little bit of wood and on the back end. It kind of feels like a gentle new charred oak barrel kind of whiskey, except instead of like a somewhat perhaps neutral corn as its main distillate, you're getting some of that like single pot still bready, sweet, slightly orchard fruity character mixed in with that new charred oak element. And the new charred oak barrels are in such proportion that they kind of like are well toned for the taste of the distillate, so it's not overriding the distillate, and they're molding quite together fairly well, like they're well integrated, which is a little bit different than having like distinct individual flavors. But in this way, it's kind of well crafted in that nothing is overriding the other, nothing is stealing the show. The distillate isn't like the main focus, but the barrels aren't so loud that they overwrite what the distillate is kind of conveying in the mouth. And so in that way, it's a pretty good balanced expression. You get some of that distillate character, some of the oakiness. Could I like pick out any of the 5 barrels here? No. I think what's mostly speaking to me is like the new charred oak barrels. Those are like the most prominent, and again, 3 out of the 5 barrels are new oak barrels, so that kind of makes some amount of sense. But since there is some ex-sherry and ex-bourbon in there, it kind of tones down the strength of that to a point where it integrates well with the actual spirit flavors, so it's well blended in that way. Some, again, sweeter honeys coming off the nose now. It's not doing anything like crazy complicated and super duper interesting, but it's a well blended expression. So there is some amount of credit you can give for something that is fairly well balanced. And this clearly is been well crafted here. Is this the master blender on the bottle? Master distiller Kevin O'Gorman. I'm not sure if he has a hand in the blending process or not, but to me the blending is kind of what stands out here. Maybe get a slight citrus note. Just kind of think about the finish here. We're into some of that barrel wood, like almost coffee, not quite. You could call it chocolate, like a dark chocolate perhaps, on the back end of the finish. Finish is like medium length. Pretty reasonable. So let's start to put some numbers to this. At this point, the aroma is kind of centered on kind of the distillate notes. I'm getting just like a slight hint of sulfur. Like really minute. But definitely present. Intensity again is not that high. Nothing super complicated. But pretty good. Give it a 16 on aroma. Now on the palate, 25. Again, sort of that apple spice muffin kind of thing going on. Maybe get into some more spices on the back of the palate. Density is about medium. Well, again, well balanced, well blended. But nothing crazy. 17. On the finish, 25. Check with some spiciness. Some of that kind of like sweetness, undercurrent. You do get some barrel wood. And then some amount of like a dark coffee, slightly chocolatey, slightly dark chocolatey thing. Not too much of it, but some. It's kind of fine. 14. So triple distilled. That being said, the texture is like kind of just like fine. Usually these triple distilled whiskeys, I kind of feel like they have an above average texture, but this isn't like hitting me that way. But we'll focus really on it and see how we feel. I guess that's okay. Give me a 7. Alright, so out of 15, my personal subjective opinion of this Jameson single pot still 5 oak cask release. Overall, it's like pretty good. It's got some good levels of flavor. You know, you're not lacking for anything here. It's fairly tasty. You give a little bit of like something maybe sherry related on the finish. You get the distillate. You get those new oak barrels. Obviously, we can't really tell what the Irish oak is really doing here, but you got some good new oak barrels. I feel like they're softened by some of the ex bourbon, ex sherry, perhaps refill barrels that are like added to this. So there's a good balance between the flavors the distillate provides and the flavors the barrels provide. Well crafted in that way. Very well balanced in order to like not have anything step on each other's toes and well integrated as well. That being said, it's kind of the most impressive thing about it is how well it's blended. Everything else is kind of just like what you would expect from an Irish whiskey with some new charred oak barrels involved. So, like that, it has a distinct level of interest, I suppose, but doesn't stand out very well as something unique. It's just a well-crafted and perhaps well-priced offering for Jameson, above like the Black Barrel, but below anything like super premium. A good offer, You know, we'll give it a 7. Not quite enough to stand out. So we put these together. We got 14, 28, 38, 48, 58. Is that right? 60 something? That's pretty good for this. I kind of thought it was going to be like a mid-50s banger. I guess the texture really helped. 61, not bad. 61 is good. It's good. It's good. Pretty good.